We're going to be reviewing our introduction paragraphs today, but before we even start, we want to make sure that our paper is set up in proper MLA format. That means that your margins are set to 1 inch, your font is Times New Roman, size 12, and your paper is double spaced. Make sure your header has your first and last name, my name, the class name, and the due date. Check if yours is correct now. Awesome. Now that you've checked your MLA format, we're going to start reviewing the introduction. We're going to look at a hook, background, and creating a thesis. So at each point, you want to make sure that you're reviewing your own work and making sure it's right. Our first stop is creating a hook. This should in some way capture your reader's attention and make them want to read more. You could use a quote, a short story, a really cool fact, a definition, or a question. But make sure that you avoid talking about the book or the characters or the author, or even a quote from the book. You want to make sure that your hook still connects to the topic that you're going to be looking at later. Go ahead and check yours now. Let's take a look at one of our examples. It says, the book To Kill a Mockingbird is about the Finch family, who live in Macomb County and is told through the eyes of Scout, the daughter of Atticus Finch. Let's try to see what's wrong with this particular hook. Take a moment to check it out. Well, you guessed it. First of all, the hook is not supposed to mention anything about the book. This seems like it would fit better within our background. I also see some punctuation errors and some capitalization errors, so always make sure you double check your work. Do that now. Let's take a look at our second example. It says, out of all the lawyers that have ever been, few have ever been lawyers to defend the weak or those who can't defend themselves. Do you think this is a good or bad hook? You're right, this is a good hook. It doesn't mention anything about the background of the book, the author, the title of the book, or a quote from the book. We can see that it's probably going to connect to our topic, which is going to be something about Atticus. Check yours now. Now that we have the perfect hook, let's move on to our background. We need to make sure that we reveal the author's first and last name, which is Harper Lee, the genre, which is fiction, and the title of the book, which is obviously To Kill a Mockingbird. You need to include at least 3 to 5 sentences of general background about the book. Make sure that in the background somewhere that you make a connection back to your hook, whether it's a phrase or a word, so that the hook isn't left hanging. And you'll also want to make sure that your background connects to your thesis. So if your thesis mentions characters' names, make sure you explain who they are in the background so when we get to the thesis, we know who they are. Go ahead and check your background now. Let's take a look at our background example. It says, To Kill a Mockingbird, a classical story about 2 kids growing up in the 1930s, along with racism and discrimination. To Kill a Mockingbird is written by Harper Lee. What do you guys think about this background? Well, the first thing that I notice about this is that it doesn't give me a genre. Classical is not a genre, so we want to make sure that we add fiction. We also notice that it's only 2 sentences, and they repeat the title of the book twice. We want to make sure that we give a little bit more background about what the book is actually about. And if I'm being nitpicky, it says 2 and it gives me the number 2. I want to make sure that I spell that out in a formal essay. Go ahead and check your background now. Let's look at our second example. It says, in Harper Lee's fiction novel To Kill a Mockingbird, the 2 children of Atticus Finch, Jem and Scout, have recently been involved with the monster of Macomb, Boo Radley. All the while, Atticus takes on the court case of defending Tom Robinson, a black man who is accused of raping a white woman. What do you guys think about this background? I definitely like this background. It gives me the author's first and last name, it gives me the genre, it gives me the book title, and it gives me that basic information. Last but not least, we have our thesis. This is going to range from topic to topic and person to person. We want to make sure that our thesis is the very last sentence of our introduction and is only 1 sentence. Again, that is the very last sentence of your introduction and only 1 sentence. In your thesis, make sure that you do not repeat the title of the book because you already said that in your background. Make sure that you don't talk about your writing in your thesis like, I'm going to be writing about, or you are going to read this in my essay. Avoid first-person pronouns. Review yours now. In case you missed any part or need to go back, use this slide as your review. You can pause it, you can screenshot, or you can rewind and view it again. But remember the steps. Your hook is your very first sentence, your background comes next and should be 3 to 5 sentences, and then your thesis, the very last sentence.